I was going to use the green screen until I realized I was wearing a green shirt, and now I don't feel like going back upstairs to change my shirt, so I'm not going to use the green screen. Hey guys, Tarkir Dragonstorm is here, and I am loving this set. This set is super cool, lots of cool new cards. I love the aesthetic, love the theme, and I'm going to talk to you about my personal top 10 favorite cards from the set and the corresponding commander set. This list is purely subjective, just cards that I really am excited about. I hope I can find homes for at some point, but if there's a really cool card that you really like that I didn't get to today, make sure you let me know in the comments, but let's go ahead and hop into the list. First up is Goldlust Triad. This is a dragon for 4 and a red, 4/3 with flying and myriad, meaning that when this creature attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you create a token copy that's tapped in attacking that player or planeswalker they control, and then you exile those tokens at the end of combat. And then whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you create a treasure token. So assuming none of your opponents has any flyers or creatures with reach, that means each attack with this sucker is going to do a total of 12 damage across the table and make you 3 treasures. Now that's really good. If you care about treasures, other token generation in general, because the myriad also are going to be tokens, it's a dragon, so it's going to go in the dragon decks. The dragon deck that I just put it in also has greater good, and you can use that after damage but before the end of combat to then sacrifice the token copies, get extra value out of them that way. So overall, Goldlust Triad, just a really cool dragon that has some cool payoffs in certain decks. Next up is Taval's Judgment, which is for 2 and a black, an enchantment that says whenever 1 or more cards leaves your graveyard, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Draw a card, create a treasure token, or create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Now, if you're triggering this at least once a turn, that's pretty good value, but I think a lot of decks are going to be able to consistently trigger this at least twice a turn, and then it seems kind of crazy. It's just even better like Phyrexian Arena or something like that. Personally, I'm thinking about putting it in my Muldrotha deck, but if you have the new Taval, it's also really good in there. Actually, if I remember right, it's good in both of the new Tavals, so that's probably where it gets the name Taval's Judgment, probably made on purpose to work good together. So yeah, if you have any kind of graveyard shenanigans in your deck, you should see if this seems like something that you can trigger at least a couple times a turn. That's insane value. Ramp or bodies or card draw. Really cool card. Gonna be thinking about this anytime I put together a new graveyard deck. Next up we have Death Begets Life. Now talk about just a cool card with cool art that I have no idea when I'm going to play, but it's for 5 and Sultai, so 8 mana, a sorcery that says destroy all creatures and enchantments, draw a card for each permanent destroyed this way. Now this board wipe is obviously probably most comparable to Decree of Pain, destroy all creatures and then you draw a card for each creature destroyed this way. Death Begets Life, while it's more color restricted, you do also get to blow up the enchantments, which if you don't have a lot of enchantments in your deck, probably just good extra upside. I like when my board wipes do a little bit more than just blow something up. This is probably going to draw an obscene amount of cards, and that's really fun. Everyone likes to draw a lot of cards. Obviously, it's very restricted by being in Sultai, so not going to be able to go in every deck. But the decks that can play it should take a look at it, see if it's worth it. Next up is All Out Assault, which is an enchantment for 2 red, white, and black. Creatures you control have +1/+1 and Death Touch. Now that already is something that you might be interested in if it wasn't for 5 mana, but when it enters, if it's your main phase, there is an additional combat phase after this phase, followed by an additional main phase. When you next attack this turn, untap each creature you control. This just seems great for any style of creature deck that really wants to go fast, really wants to get in a lot of damage. Maybe you have a lot of cool attack triggers, or maybe you're just me and you like the small evasive threats. The +1/+1 is a nice little bonus. The Death Touch means it's going to be harder for your opponents to decide whether or not they want to block. It also means that if you have to leave anything back, that they're good blockers. And then obviously extra combats, super cool. So All Out Assault, not sure exactly where I'm going to put it right now, but it's definitely a card I'm going to keep in mind because it's super cool. Next up we have Mardu Siegebreaker, another Mardu card. For 1 in Mardu, it's a 4/4 human warrior riding a chicken with Death Touch and Haste. When this creature enters, you exile up to 1 other target creature you control until this leaves the battlefield, and when this creature attacks, for each opponent create a tapped token that's a copy of the exiled card attacking that opponent, and then at the beginning of the next end step, you sacrifice those tokens. This seems like an awesome ability to double up with Ishin, especially when you keep in mind that all of the things that have attack triggers are going to get doubled. Anything that has enters triggers are going to get extra value out of. And once the Mardu Siegebreaker is completely removed, whether it be targeted removal or a board wipe, you get the original thing back. So if you care about tokens, you care about sacrificing, you care about attacking, you just have a lot of enter the battlefield triggers, this is a card you need to keep in mind, and it's only $2 about right now, so seems like a great pickup for a lot of decks if you have the colors to support it. Number 5, Elspeth Stormslayer. For 5 mana, it's a planeswalker with 5 loyalty, static if one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many are created instead. +1, create a 1/1 white soldier token. 0, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain flying until your next turn. And -3, destroy target creature and opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. So right off the bat, that static ability basically being like an Anointed Procession or a Mondrak is really impressive. These effects get a lot of play because token decks are so popular, but an effect like that that makes tokens itself is super impressive, especially because this is not just a token maker, not just a token doubler, but it's also removal with that -3. It's also a finisher with that 0 ability. This card seems incredibly powerful, incredibly pushed. If you are playing a token deck, it's hard to justify not adding this into your deck, minus that hefty $40-ish price tag it's got right now, but you never know. Maybe it'll drop, maybe people will find out in practice that having this effect on a planeswalker means it's more fragile than, say, an enchantment or something, but we will see. Seems like very, very good card for token decks. Number 4 is Colossal Grave-Reaver, which is for 6, a green and a black, a 7/6 dragon with flying. When it enters or attacks, you mill 3 cards, and whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from your library, you put them onto the battlefield. This is a very straightforward but super cool card. 8 mana is a lot, but you are in green, you are in black, you have the means to make excessive amounts of mana. If you're a graveyard deck, it seems hard to not include this card. Not only is it fueling your graveyard, but it also is going to reanimate anything that you put in there. And that second ability doesn't just work with its own mill, it's any other passive effects you might have putting big scary creatures into your graveyard. The dragon will bring those back as well, not just from its own effect, which seems super spicy. If you're already doing this effect, you're probably going to have more instances of it laying around, so it just gets even better. Another card I'm going to consider for my Muldrotha deck, but I think if you're any Golgari X deck that has a lot of creatures in it, this is worth considering. Number 3 is Will of the Temur, which is for 5 and a blue, so 6 mana sorcery. Choose one, but if you have your commander, you get to choose both instead. You create a token that's a copy of target permanent, except it's a 4/4 dragon with flying in addition to its other types, and then target player draws cards equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control. There's a lot to like about this card. First of all, it's kind of a clone, but you can target any permanent with it, whether it's something you control, something your opponents control, and now it's a decent body with evasion as well. That seems super exciting, but then also it's kind of like a Return of the Wild Speaker or Rishkar's expertise as well, because it's also going to draw a bunch of cards. Noteworthy, it is target player, so you could choose to target someone else. Maybe they're close to milling out, maybe you're making a deal with someone, but usually I assume you're going to target yourself. But I think in a lot of ways, those green draw spells have outpaced blue's draw, so giving blue something to kind of catch back up with green in these like big burst card draw effects seems really powerful and is stapled onto a clone. And because we're talking about the commander format primarily on this channel, you're going to have your commander in play most of the time anyways, so it's not going to be uncommon for you to get both modes, in which case this seems insane for only 6 mana. So it's definitely going to be one of the first cards I think about when I'm building my blue decks. Number 2 is a very cool new commander. This is Nariv, Crackling, Vanguard, which is for 2 in Mardu. It's a 4/4 spirit dragon with flying and death touch. When it enters, you create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, and when it attacks, exile a number of cards from the top of your library equal to the number of differently named tokens you control. Then during any turn you attacked with a commander, you may play those cards. It reminds me of a similar commander from a couple years ago, Gimbal, who makes creature tokens equal to the number of artifact tokens that you have, but that's just not a very good payoff for going wide with the kinds of tokens you have, whereas Nariv is a lot less restrictive. It can be any kind of token, so you don't have to just stick with artifacts, though you will play those Academy manufacturers and crazy cards like that, but it's turning that into card advantage, which is even better than getting the bodies from Gimbal. Now, you do have to attack with your commander in order to play those cards, but that seems pretty easy when it has flying and death touch, and you are in red, so you can get like anger in your graveyard or something like that. You're playing white, so you could tutor up an equipment that gives your commander haste, so it does not seem hard at all to get that card advantage turned on. overall, very cool commander. I guess probably my favorite commander from the set. Probably going to consider building it at some point. And then probably my favorite card from the set is Fangkeeper's Familiar, which is for 1 in Sultai, a 3/3 snake with flash. When it enters, you choose 1. Gain 3 life and Surveil 3, destroy target enchantment, or counter target creature spell. Now, if you want any of these effects, there are ways to do it at more efficient rates for less mana and less colors, but the fact that it is so flexible on this 3/3 creature that can come out of nowhere, it can be blinked, it can be recurred, there's a lot of cool shenanigans. I love the flexibility. I think I'm going to consider it for all of my Sultai Plus decks going forward, just because I love the flexibility and it's got awesome art. And those are my personal top 10 cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm and its corresponding commander set. Obviously, being a 3-color set, it definitely restricts which of these cards you can put in which decks. That's definitely the biggest drawback, but if you are in those color combinations, these seem like really good picks. They seem like fun brew around, so it'll definitely be interesting to see which ones get played over time. But let me know what your favorite cards are in the comments below. Are they cards that I didn't mention today? Again, this was just my personal picks, definitely not an objective power ranking scale by any means, so let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys in another video in the near future.